Here.
Thank you. By the way, we have had a habit when we call to order, just to ask if somebody's, it's not required, but if somebody's reading something they particularly like, they can share it at this point. So I missed that with you. Deborah, are you reading anything you want to share?
I'm good.
Okay, sounds good. Lo?
Here.
Hey, Dennis?
Here.
Thank you. Travis is not yet. Nancy?
Here, and I'm reading Facing the Mountain by Daniel James Brown. And I'd show you, but it's a little image on my. But it's by the guy that wrote The Boys in the Boat, and it's about Japanese-American involvement during World War II.
Oh, don't tell him, he'll be reading it.
Yeah, that's probably.
Excellent.
I like it.
Boys in the Boat was really good as
It
well.
was.
I just finished a book called Rampage about the Battle of the Manila.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's on my list. I love Boys in the Boat is one of my favorite books, so that's great.
It is. I agree.
Barbara.
Here.
You are. Got anything to share? No?
Oh, yeah, I'm reading Tabloid City by Pete Hamill.
That's good.
All bad news.
Alice.
Hi, here. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm reading a couple of different books right now. Emily Ratajkowski's My Body. And then there's a really cool poetry book that I'm reading by Tennille Campbell, and it's called Nezu, which means good medicine. And then one more is Minik, the New York Eskimo. I can't remember who that one's by, but it's an interesting book of an Inuit from, an Inuit man was taken from his family in Greenland and brought to the Museum of Natural History in New York City in the early 1900s. It's a heartbreaking story, but based on a true story.
What's the name of it again?
Minik, the New York Eskimo.
I'm glad I asked you guys. These are great. Doug.
I'm here, and I think Alice is reading enough books for all of us.
Thanks, Doug. I am here, and I'm reading Cloud Cuckoo Land, which I love. It's too heavy to carry with me. It's goes through 4 or 5 different time zones, and it's fantastic. So I recommend it. Kelly.
Here.
Thanks. Anything to share? No?
I mean, I'm reading some poems for my English class, but that's about it.
Required reading.
Required reading.
Sounds like what English class is like. Okay. I would like to acknowledge this evening that we do gather on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Athabascan people. For more than 1,000 years, the Dena'ina people have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. So it's with gratefulness and respect that we recognize the contributions, innovations, and contemporary perspectives of the Upper Cook Inlet Dena'ina people. Roll call before the landing comment. That's 3 agenda items already. Next is approval of agenda. Does anybody have anything they wish to add to today's agenda? Would somebody like to motion approval of the agenda?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Who did the motion?
Deborah, or whatever.
That's thank you. And Barb. Okay. Take notes too. Do we have any persons to be heard?
Not tonight.
No.
Sisters say they're going to call in? No? Okay, and I'm sure you've all had a chance to read the minutes, and start with the approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes. I do have a couple of comments on the minutes.
Okay, if we get a second, then we can open for comments.
Low.
Okay, second, what do you have, Barb?
I'm having a little trouble hearing. I don't know if people can mute or there's a lot of I don't know if anyone else is having trouble hearing the paper shuffling and clicking. Am I the only one?
It might just be me. I'll put my paper away.
Okay, are we ready for the discussion?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so while reading the minutes, and I want to thank I think it was Dennis who did the minutes. Is he here?
Travis.
Oh, Travis did. Yes. Thanks, Travis, for doing the minutes. But I did notice in our 12-15 minutes, I don't know if everyone has a copy of that in front of them, but under the approval section, after the mission moment, under the approval section, there's a small procedural error under the first bullet where it says the approval of the November minutes. So only official appointed board members are able to make and approve motions. And so I noticed on our December 15th minutes that the approval for the November minutes was done by our teen advisor, Denali. And the teen advisor role is an advisor to the board on teen issues. It's not a voting member. I don't know if anyone else noticed that, but I think, the minutes can stand as approved. The November minutes can stand as approved, but in the future, I think we need to be aware of the teen advisor's role. Does anyone have any questions or comments about that?
Yeah, I should have caught that. My apologies, but yeah, you're right about that. So I think we can hold on to those minutes. It occurs to me, though, that I know that I believe, Jacob, you sent around job descriptions for the new board members, but did the packet include the teen advisory? So that, could you circulate that to everybody so we're all on the same page with that?
I also have a question, if that's okay.
So let me clarify. There is no really written job description for the team member. We looked into the historical information, and the team member was added to the advisory board sometime around 2003 under the Begich administration. The team member is not appointed through the assembly process like all the other members. So that's why it is, according to the charter, not a voting member.
Okay.
I can give opinions and advice on things, but I can't vote to move things.
Right. No, teen advisory.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we definitely want to keep your opinions, Denali.
Are there any other comments or questions about that?
I had another thing about the minutes from last time. So under the number 2, on the second paragraph where it talks about me proposing a solution, is it possible to change the wording for A and B from segregate to separate?
Denali, what we'll do is somebody will have a motion to approve as amended. So why don't you say what you want your amendments to be?
Okay, I'd like to amend under number 2 that in the second paragraph that A and B state separate LGBTQ books to its own section out of the kids section and separate all LGBTQ out of the kids section instead of segregate.
Okay, any other comments on the minutes?
I have another comment on the minutes too also. And Denali, I may need your help with this one. So when I was reading the minutes, the language uses 3 different terms for the same area. I believe the area that you actually went up to look at the books that you were talking about last month was the teen fiction. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in our notes here in the minutes, we have youth section, we have teen section, and we have kids. And I believe, that what you were talking about was the teen section that's next, those two shelving areas that's next to the teen underground. So I just want to clarify that so we can make sure our minutes speak about the place that you were at.
Yeah, I was talking about the teen underground and the youth section in my presentation.
Youth is the correct term. It's not, it's actually the youth section, so.
No, youth services actually don't create, a regular person just going into the library. The youth services is on the second floor, and that's something that you walk into and, through a door, and there's glass windows. The section I think Denali was talking about was upstairs on the third floor, and it's just labeled Teen Underground, which is the room, and it has books in it. And also there are 2 rows of shelves, or 1 row, but front and back, on 2 sides, that says teen fiction.
Yeah, I was talking about both in my presentation. I went both to the teen underground and to the youth services section. So I think in bullet A, instead of youth in quotes, we should say teen underground to clarify that.
Okay, I'm writing this down, so
I am
replace
too.
teen underground, is that right, Denali?
Yeah, instead of youth for bullet A, and then kids areas are the same as youth services, so.
So you were actually in the children's section. I'm saying children's section because I know that's from birth to, more or less 6th grade. For the literature, so on the second floor, that's where you found these books?
Yeah, that's where I found some of them.
Which ones did you find in that area?
So they're not specified in the minutes. The ones that he specifies in the minutes, I found in the teen underground. The ones I found in a kids area, I believe, are in the second part under number 2, second paragraph.
There's only bullets. There's no, there's A, B, and C. It says B, Denali as a teenager feels it's not right for these books to be present in the kids area. So that's where you went into. So it's kind of confusing, as you can see, because you're talking about the books in the A section that you found in the teen underground. And then you're saying that no, the youth services.
Yeah, I agree that the wording is a little bit weird. The second part under number 2 talks more about the kids section, but I think that if we wanted to fix this, we should make it so that everything talking about the teen underground is by itself. Everything talking about youth services is by itself so that it's not mixing up and confusing people.
I agree, but I don't see which one you're, I'm sorry, I'm still a little confused. So I want to make sure we have it clear, for the record, because it's important to have it clear. You're talking about under the B, section 2, B, we're changing A and B, we're changing that we're changing A to teen underground instead of youth, correct?
Right.
And
Yep.
B,
Right.
you're saying that the youth services, your youth services, the one on the second floor was where you were for B.
Sort of. I think for B, where there's A, B, C, we should change kids to teen underground as well.
Okay, I agree, yeah.
Which is referencing the previous bullet. And then where it starts with A, B, C, D, and E again, A and B are talking about the youth services section. And the rest are about teen.
Okay, so you found LGBTQ books that were of concern to you in the youth services, not the teen underground.
I found concerning books in both. The teen underground had a lot of books that had very graphic sex scenes, and I included a lot of excerpts from those in my presentation. And then in the youth services section, I found books that were also concerning because they were discussing a topic as complex as sexuality and breaking that kind of thing down for younger kids. And I didn't feel that was right because they were mixed in with other books that didn't talk about that kind of thing, which kind of makes it difficult for parents to decide what they do and do not want their kids reading. So that's why in the second part, I was recommending just taking all the books in the youth services section that contain LGBTQ content and just putting them on their own shelf in there. So parents can easily direct their kids there or away from there. And then in the Teen Underground, I recommended breaking it down by age so that books that had more explicit content would be better suited for age groups, because 12 and 18 are drastically different in maturity and worldly understanding and exposure.
So your teen underground and the teen fiction, you're okay with having, I mean, I think the library's set up with the Dewey Decimal System or by author in the fiction section. So the LGBTQ that you want to separate, those are in the youth services, not the teen section.
No.
Yes, the only thing I want to separate in the teen section is by age, like 12 to 14 and 15 or 16 to 18, that kind of thing. Just making books more age appropriate so that 12-year-olds don't have content, like access to content that really only a 17 or 18-year-old should be reading. That's the only thing I want to change there.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I've made the following changes according to our discussion, if it's appropriate, so that I have this for Travis. I have on section 2, bullet A, I've changed youth in quotes to teen underground. On section 2, bullet B, to be present in the teen underground. In the second paragraph, bullet A, I have separate LGBTQ books to its own section out of the youth services section. Bullet B, separate all LGBTQ out of the youth services section. I believe I've captured what Denali and Barbara were clarifying.
I have one more thing to say. That yes, I agree with you.
Denali, are you okay with the way I've been writing it down?
Yeah, I'm just now rereading that first one, and I'm thinking that maybe we can cross that off altogether, because I never said out of the youth services section, just its own section in youth services. So I don't think that's
So
necessary.
strike bullet A.
Bullet A in the
Got it.
second paragraph.
Got it. All right.
But otherwise, yes, thank you.
Okay.
So the third thing I want to bring up in this area is C under the first paragraph. The sentence doesn't really make sense to me, so I was hoping you could clarify that. It says directly behind the teens section is the foreign books section with more inappropriate literature, comma, more in youth services.
Yeah, I don't know why that's there. I never said anything like that.
Well, you did mention the fact that there was right next to the teen. fiction.
Yes, like behind the teen, but I didn't say anything about that kind of stuff being in youth services.
So
Okay.
would you like to delete C?
No, just stop at inappropriate literature, period.
Period.
Yeah.
And your just take that out, the last, more in use services.
All right. Did you hear on Zoom? So bullet point 2C would end at the word literature.
And I think the other thing that we should also maybe put international book section. I mean, foreign book section. There are books that are that term when we talk about language is a little outdated. Also, just I mean, this is not a big deal, but there are books in Chinese, Russian, Korean.
That was the name of the section, so that's why I called it that.
What do they call it in the section? Is that foreign book section?
Sorry? Yeah, it says foreign books.
It says foreign book, but
Excuse me,
in the
ladies-
library.
Gentlemen, whoa, Lo, what would you like to say?
I was just curious as to how you determine which books were inappropriate in the foreign or international book section when a lot of them are written in the language.
Yeah. So I kind of drew on personal experience for that one. So I argued that there was inappropriate literature in the foreign literature section because there was a lot of, I want to say, steamy novels that were in foreign languages. And I said that those shouldn't be by the teen section because a lot of them are in languages like German and Russian, which we have a lot of language immersion programs in Anchorage where kids learn to speak that fluently. I have a friend who hasn't been in an immersion program for 6 years, but he still speaks German fluently. So, and he was out of it when he was 12. So if he was 12 and speaking it fluently and he was allowed in the Teen Underground section, he could pull out a book like that and understand it as though it was in English. So I recommended moving either the inappropriate books that were in the foreign language section into the adult section, or just moving that all together so that young people don't have access to that kind of literature.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to ask Jacob kind of how the library is organized, because it is the teen fiction. This was not in the teen underground. These books are in the next to the teen fiction, which is outside of the teen underground row. You know, the room. There's a teen underground room. Then there's the teen fiction row, and then next to it is the world language or foreign book. Excuse me. And so how and then it, it goes on to other adult books. And so there are adult books right near there in areas that anybody in the library can peruse at any way they want. There's no doors stopping them. So Jacob, how is that organized as far as the Dewey Decimal System, if we're still on that?
So what you're talking about is that, like somebody said, it's not really foreign. It's called world languages because they're,
That's better.
They're spoken in the United States. They're read in the United States.
Yeah.
All those languages are. But the world languages section had been over by the fiction section, but over time, fiction got bigger and we needed the shelves. So we shifted the collection and we put foreign language just to the left of young adult, the young adult row of books. I'm not, I've worked in a lot of libraries, honestly, and the placement of books, typically, some libraries don't even have the space to segregate as much as we're talking about. I mean, we're lucky that we do have a certain amount of space, but I think that Denali was using the cover art of that particular novel to suggest that the contents of it were particularly inappropriate. But no items in the library are restricted from anybody checking them out. So even if we move them to another section, if somebody's looking for, something German that's particularly spicy, they can look for it in the catalog. They can look for it, by just going through all of the books in German. I don't see, the amount of work that it would take to shift the entire collection to be worth, somebody inappropriately reading German, but that's just my opinion.
May I add to that?
We're trying to pass the minutes here, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, Denali, you think?
I wanted to say that I have a correction. I did not go just based off of the cover art. I did translate the wording on the back, and it was talking about having hot, steamy sex. And I'm just saying that if a 12-year-old can do what I did and do a 180 and still think they're looking at books for them in another language, then it should probably be moved. Maybe not the entire section, but at least the books that talk about that. I found at least 3 just like that.
Okay, and
Thank
yeah.
you, Denali.
Those were all my comments.
Thank you. Nancy, would you like to read the amendments so that we can vote on the amendments? And if you don't have them, I've got mine. Should I try?
No. So we have amended the minutes to include the language that I read earlier. So bullet A, we have replaced under section 2, bullet A, replace the word youth in quotes with teen underground. Bullet B, we have replaced kids areas with teen underground. Bullet C, we have replaced foreign book with world languages. On the next paragraph, we struck bullet A. Bullet B now starts the list and it reads, separate all LGBTQ out of the youth services section.
In youth
And
services
another
section.
one was to have a period on C in the previous section after.
Exactly. I apologize. Yes, that's there too. I have so much writing and rewriting about international, foreign, and world languages books that I missed that. It is in my notes.
Does everybody understand the
I'm
amendment?
changing out of into in for B.
Yeah.
Denali has another suggestion, and that's that on section 2, paragraph 2, bullet B, separate all LGBTQ in the youth services section?
Yeah, I don't want to say out of because I'm not trying to take it out. I'm just trying to put it on its own shelf in the section. And I just want to make sure that that's clear in the minutes.
That actually makes it much clearer. Okay. Everybody understanding the amendment?
Anybody need clarification of what I read?
So hold on, let me find out who made the motion.
The motion, Madam Chair, the motion was made by Barb, seconded by Lowe to bring the minutes to discussion. So you would need you'd need somebody to move to accept the amended minutes. Well, actually, you need to vote on the previous motion and then, or you can just do it as a vote on the amended minutes.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask Lo, would you like to reword your motion? To say
Barb.
accept amended?
I move that we accept the the minutes of December 15th, the amended minutes of December 15th.
Oh, that was your motion. I'm sorry. Lo, would you second that? In favor of the motion to accept the amended, please identify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Sounds unanimous.
It does.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Thank you. That was fun. Next on the agenda is the director's report. Judy, would you like to take that?
Well, I sure would. As soon as I find it here in my notes, I'm too busy eating. Had a busy day and didn't get to eat very much.
There she
So
is.
thank you there. I think it's self-explanatory. I did want to tell you that we will be glad if you want a copy of this or want it. We do have a new COVID update, and I don't know if Jacob sent that out to you guys. I know we did the rest of the library, but if you do want a copy of it, you're welcome to have it. So we have that. It's very little change. They just did the quarantine from 10 to 5 days. They just followed the new CDC guidelines, but we needed to update that. And then we also had our other plan or co-op plan that is our emergency plan. And Jacob and I discussed that since we had a fire drill and when it was -5 and it was very cold. And we were out of the building for about an hour, finally walked over, before that hour was up, we walked over to the natural pantry, but we needed to make it a little bit clearer that we felt and who was in charge and what happened, where did people go. So we did also update that, and it was our emergency preparedness. We've been asked to look at it and all of the policies, so we did do that, and it has been turned in, so that was great, just to make it a little clearer. Our Winter Wonderland was a huge success. We had over 70 kids there. And I wanted to thank the youth services for all that hard work. The only thing I got to do was make noise makers, and I don't think I'll volunteer again. There were a bunch of noise makers, but we had a good time. As I said, we did complete our phase 1 appraisals of the Alaska collections outside. Most of you probably saw them outside in what we call the Galleria, the paintings that were in the glass. We also had that all cleaned up, all the glass cleaned, and we put LED lights in it, and it's beautiful. And you can see all of those paintings, and the value of those paintings were over $450,000. And so now we have an appraisal to be sure that it is insured. So. And then, and they all, Sarah Prescott and the Alaska Collections librarian and Rick and Brenda, they all worked over the holidays. It was really nice. Came back, it was really cleaned up and worked well. Then I did move with, I did tour the old library, the old municipal building downtown with Rose Sturgeluski, Meade Treadwell. Can someone tell me who Wilda Marston's daughter is?
Carol Blythe? Blythe
Yes,
Marston?
Blythe, is it Blythe? Her name's Blythe, okay.
Blythe Marston.
She also went, and we took a look at that, and I believe that Roe, he had a, and I don't have my notes in front of me, but he's moving that through, some of the changes it needs through the foundation. The committee that was looking at that passed it, and it will go before, I believe, the full committee next week when we have our LAB meeting. I mean, Anchorage Library ALF. Gosh, I can't remember all these things. So that is moving along. That is really something that the mayor wants done. He just announced today that they're doing a big project on the renovation on that downtown 6th. I think that's where Mike Robbins is. I have a press release and I'll send it to all of you. It was really exciting, and that library downtown will be a part of that. And then we did meet. We're going to have our next senior Golden Day is going to be in February. It is going to be February, oh gosh. I'll let you know when it is. Just got too much going on. But anyway, we're going to have a movie in the Wilder Marston Theater because that will hold people and we can spread out. We can hold 50 people easily and be 6 feet apart. So we are looking, we thought we had an old projector we could use, but it's not working. Rick Henderson is looking for an old projector. We do have some really old movies in the reels and we would love to play it. But if you know anybody that's got an old movie reel, let us let us know. And so that will be the first one. And then we scheduled what we were going to do for the rest of the year. And I don't have that in front of me, but I can send it if you want the information. We are continuing to address our code of conduct, and we're making progress on that. We did have a theft in the teen library last week, and actually, there was one thing we thought was stolen, but our IT person said to no, it was 4 things. So it was pretty close to $1,000 worth of equipment, not including the damage done to the glass. So we're addressing all of those issues. I'd rather not say exactly what we're going to do, but we are addressing them because we just can't tolerate this kind of behavior in the library. So, and the kid that took it, we think it was him. He called, left his name, and said, "My friend stole it. He doesn't want to bring it back." So I brought it back, and we have him on, and also he was in there at that time. So it's really, I think we need to let people know that you're not going to come in and steal things from the library and not have any consequences. So that's what's going on with us right now. There's a lot of things going on, but that's all I'll talk about tonight.
Barb?
I have 2 questions for you, Judy. The first one was with the emergency plan. I don't know if the library has to do this or does do this, but I'm just curious if there's an earthquake or there's a fire alarm going off. Is there a designated building where patrons would go, and how do they know to do that?
Yeah, I will. Jacob's got his hands up. I know this address in there.
So we have what's called an emergency action plan, and it talks about where patrons are supposed to be, directed. There is no building though. There is no other building, and we have no way to transport all those people to another building. We have plans for staff, and in different events, they have different action plans. But we have a very large binder that has different eventualities and then what the plan is for each of those things.
Okay, thank you. I know when I worked in the school district, they had to have a building because all the kids needed to be someplace, but I didn't.
We don't have a building. That's probably, but we did get we did go to Natural Pantry. They opened up for us. That was nice.
Yeah. And then the other thing is when you mentioned that there were things stolen from the teen library, do you mean the teen underground?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, and then I was thinking maybe there's another place I don't know in the library. But then was that a police matter? Does that become a police matter at that amount of money?
Yes.
We filed a police report.
Okay, okay, thank you.
And we didn't have the amounts, but I did ask Celia today when she gave me to just kind of give us an estimate. And Brenda's going to give an estimate what it is to fix. We have a problem that we found in there, all of the security. It tapes all of the kids going out this way, but it's right underneath where all the equipment is, and there's no camera on it. So we're looking at what we can do to fix that. The point is they can't be left in there unsupervised for long periods of time.
So any other, I had a patron ask me to ask a question. I'm not sure who to direct this to. Judy, this is part of the other director's report, the longer library by library report. For those of you who have it in front of you, it's page 2 of this long, what I'm talking about.
That's, Jacob can answer this because this is from most of the other libraries on the LUSAC here, so.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So enriched information and resources. So if you look at the second bullet from the bottom, Samantha Blankart installed early learning stations at Polar Pediatrics, Achievement Therapy. So what I was asked to ask, Jacob, and you can probably direct me to somebody. Anyway, these were funded by the Outgoing Tax Fund. And the question was, is the tax authorized user to use the early learning to private businesses? And if so, will the next round go to places that are more accessible by the general public? So you might have to track that one down. I don't know.
So basically, we put them in a lot of places. We put them at all the WIC offices, and we put them at Head Start as well. It's just that this round of ones we worked with the pediatrics group, and they were the ones that suggested certain locations that we could put them. This is the first time that we started putting them in private businesses, but we were working with the health department because the health department was the one that provided us with the money. And mostly what we did is we put together what books were going to be a part of the station and how the station was to be set up. And the health department handled the rest.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think that answers that person's question, and if not, I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
But there is going to be another round of funding on that. Is that?
That's the decision of the health department if they want to fund another set of those.
Okay, any other questions for staff on the director's report? Thanks, Gary. I don't think we usually move to approve this, do we? Anybody have a problem
No.
with that?
No.
Okay, appreciate your. Do we have a permission moment person here?
Yes, we do.
Hi.
Yes, we do.
Good.
Miss Rebecca.
Good evening, all. Hi. So I actually have a little thumb drive. I thought I was going to do a PowerPoint presentation, but if we are short on time, I do not have to. But it may be more interesting than just watching me talk through a mask. What's the preferred direction? It's all right. Okay. Then I will just give me a moment to watch the chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, you were hidden by my screen. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, we can't see the people on the sides.
Rebecca, what's your position? You lost your sound. We have no sound.
You guys are on mute.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Mute is better than feedback. Ooh.
That's better. Thank you.
All right, let's try take 3. My name is Rebecca Barker, and I'm the Community Resource Coordinator.
I'm personal counselor to the director.
Oh, bless you and thank you. Other duties as assigned. No kind of clinician, that is so I can explain what that title means. Now, I've just made a mess of this screen, so can y'all on Teams, am I sharing from here?
There's a thing where you can go share screen.
Okay, so I'm
It's on the
not
right.
sharing.
See that box with an arrow?
Oh, down
Try the
here.
box with the arrow there. Up, up, up.
I swear I've done this
To the
before.
right, to the right, to the right, I think.
See the box?
There you go. Hit that,
Thank you so much.
share screen.
There we go.
Wow, I did not know. How did you get so
Yeah,
smart?
look at that. I-
No,
You
I
had
won't say
teenage-
I had to use this at work, but not for the same thing you guys use. You don't want to.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. Great, I'm looking for that presentation button and see if that looks.
There you go on the bottom.
Is that this one?
That's the
there?
one.
Yep,
Is that what
that's
we
one.
want? So
That's the one. And then you should be rolling in PowerPoint.
All right, is that filling up that screen for y'all?
Yes, it's great.
Okay, well, it's just the title, so just get ready. So, thank you guys so much. What's my timeline here? Because I will ramble.
About 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yes ma'am. All
I'll
right,
stop you when I get time.
that sounds perfect. So you may have seen this one before, actually, because my reporting tool went down today, and so I wasn't able to update my numbers for you. These are October numbers. So the Community Resource Coordinator, that's my role, is basically a long-winded way to say library social worker, and I'm here to explain exactly what that means. Some folks may already be familiar, but there's just sort of a run-through of what our program is and what we've been up to. So it all goes back to around 2015, 16, 17 time. That's before I worked here. That was in 2017, there was a survey done in person at LUSAC, and 1 in 4 of our guests self-identified, self-reported that they were experiencing homelessness at that time. That survey covered a lot of other things like what kind of genres do you like? Are you looking for work, etc. But one of those questions was, what's your housing status? And part of them, folks self-described that they were homeless. Another important statistic is that 27%, slightly more than 1 in 4, self-identified as Alaska Mental Health Trust beneficiaries. Now that's a little bit funding jargon, but if you are in the nonprofit world, you know that the Mental Health Trust has 5 categories of beneficiaries: mental health, substance use, traumatic brain injury, developmental disorders, and Alzheimer's and related dementias. Now, we are all very close to either ourselves or someone else experiencing, in the state of Alaska, experiencing that, and our population reflects that. So again, these are self-report numbers. 45% said they had no internet access at home, no surprise. And of those who visit every day, a high number self-reported that they were houseless. And a lot of what they reported is just, job searching, housing searching, trying to make things work. So this is a little bit of fine print. This gives you the basic timeline. I'm happy to share this out. I'm not going to walk you through all of it, but basically in 2015, a librarian and a social work professor from UAA met at a conference, and they figured out, how do we do this for free? And so they brought me in as a student, because students do not get paid. And so the first idea was like, what does this even mean? We know we have folks with need. We know that, many of them, we can't even tell that they have a need, but they have it when they're asked. And so basically we just kind of kept developing, got these numbers, and pulled together, Claire Ross and Sarah Prescott pulled together enough money to fund a pilot program, which funded my wage starting in September of 2018. And that was the start of this CRC program. So we didn't want to indicate that, anybody should come to the library for social work services. We basically were very much emphasizing that, like, the folks who are already here, we want to connect them to the resources in the community that are going to meet their needs. So if they are looking for work, can we connect them to 9-Star, to the job centers, to MASK, to these other things that exist that are going to better serve them? If they are looking for housing, can we connect them to the information so that they're not floundering on their own? In November of 2020, I was very fortunate to be able to hire Ziona Brownlow. And then in summer of 2021, I was able to bring on LaToya, and these are my 2 amazing partners in CRC. LaToya, neither of them are here right now, but you get to see their unmasked faces for once on the here on the presentation. LaToya covers Muldoon. She is great. She brings a lot of experience as a mom and a veteran. So she knows how to handle chaos. She knows how to handle getting through resources, advocating for her own kids. And Ziona brings a lot of clinical background with the folks who we do have walk in off the streets who are experiencing those higher behavioral health vulnerabilities. severe mental illnesses, addictions, et cetera. She has a lot of training and background in and successes in helping folks get where they need to go. Our activities are summarized here. These two wonderful folks are not on the CRC team. This was a different presentation, but our basic deal is that we do things that library employees traditionally can't. And the way that I break that down is we help people fill out applications. Find the right application, help you fill it out. Library staff are not really supposed to interpret forms for individuals, and but social work types, we more can wade in those waters until people are able to connect and do a warm handoff to a proper supportive agency. So the next time they come to the library, they're ready to be served by books and internet. So that's kind of the basics of it. We also have been really, I think, really responsive to community need. In 2021, I will go to my grave saying this, AHFC opened up a rent relief program that was only accessible if you had a cell phone and internet access. We were closed at that time. There was no paper form. There was no ability, no in-person assistance. And so we have helped a lot of folks who were seniors, people who were just didn't have a cell phone. There was no plan in place. So some of those things are fixed now. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but it's just a little one of my things. So responding to that is part of our role. When things land on the library without the library wanting that to happen, like a sudden rent relief wave, that's kind of where we come in, where the staff can say, Rebecca, Ziana, Latoya, I have someone, they're asking a question I can't answer. What can we do for them? And that's what we're supposed to sort of step in with. This is actually very common. The last bullet here is there's 50 plus programs across the U.S. This one is ours. Social workers are pretty common in the U.S. They're in Denver, they're in Minneapolis, they're all over Indiana or really in Illinois for some reason. The things that we're not is we're not emergency services, we're not paramedics, we are not cops, we are not case management, and we're not clinicians for folks. So nobody's coming to us. We don't carry a caseload. We answer questions and we get people where they're supposed to go. It's a very short-term intervention, and it's aimed at reducing the impact on staff, reducing the use of emergency services for non-emergency issues. When there's an emergency, we want them to do that. But if people are just upset or they're just confused, then they can work with us for a little bit and hopefully connect out of those services. And we do have some success
we
stories.
do help with emergencies because we find people and land in the,
Thank you. Sometimes we have, sometimes there's someone sleeping where they should be.
That we do have to deal with an emergency.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to be able to, if there is somebody who's just a simple, I think if I'm remembering the gentleman that you're thinking of, he was just cold and he was outside before we were open and he really just needed somebody to sit with him until the hypothermia kind of faded out. He was not in a medical emergency situation and I was able to give him a couple referrals and kind of send him on his way. I'd love to, I haven't seen him since. So it's kind of like libraries are open to the whole community, and that's what we have in our community. It's just a reality. So this is just a list of partners and supporters. The first full 3 years, we were grant funded, and by these supporters up here, who we're very, very grateful for. And then this is just sort of a smattering of some of the agencies we work with. If you work in the alphabet soup of nonprofit world, you might recognize CHA, the web, CHA, ACH, CSS, Choices Awake. We try to PRC. We work through with those folks. We try not to step on their toes. But if somebody maybe they didn't understand an application or they, couldn't get there during the hours, we are just that connector to these services. A couple of things here. Again, these are October numbers, and I wish that Art was working today, but sorry about that. Now, my pride and joy is when we connect people and reduce those houselessness numbers. That is my personal little obsession. There's a lot of other things we work with. We work around food, we work around wellness, we work around economic resources, and we work around housing. Those 4 things. These are numbers from till October of 2021. Emergency service diversions, those are ones when we intersect with somebody who is about to be at that level and we can help bring them down and get them on their way. And then we can add to that number of folks connected to housing at least 3 more. And there's one guy who's very, very soon. Final slide is just a little bit of smattering of extra data. Over 50% of our customers are over 50 years old. And what we found out this week, actually, before it went down, was that 40% of the customers that we serve, the CRC team, Latoya, Ziana, and myself. Now, They are not served by any other city entity that uses HMIS, more alphabet soup. HMIS is the Homelessness Management Information System. It's what homeless services projects have to use to track their data. So if you're thinking Catholic Social Services or any of the shelters that are funded with HUD dollars, they access HMIS as that's their database. We have a very, very private section of that database, and we use it to record the folks that we help. And we were suspecting that there's a unique population of library users who don't interact with any other service in HMIS. And we found that 40% of our folks are in that little subcategory. So in Anchorage, we all wish there was more Krispy Kremes, more Olive Gardens, more malls, but more resources is sort of our personal thing. We want more, resources. So I think we do see that the library fills a gap when people don't know where else to go. They come here. So anyways, that's sort of our role. We have 6 stories of folks who had been trespassed and were successfully resolved, or diverted from APD, meaning that they were able to modify their behavior, sit with us to connect to additional resources, stabilize in their mental or behavioral health or whatever it was, and then use the library peaceably without any sort of disruption. So, and then we have other information about shelter access that may or may not be interesting to people. So that is just under 10, I hope. And good questions. Thanks. I talked real fast.
You did.
Sorry.
Would it be possible to get a copy
Yes,
of the
ma'am.
presentation so that the real secretary has it available to him?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
One of the things too, I wanted to mention, because Rebecca and I spend a lot of times talking on different sides sometimes of this issue and how we see it, but we always come away loving each other and agreeing. One of the things that I wanted to know, I have a friend that's on the mental health board, and there is a lot of money in that mental health trust. And I do not, and I'm going to tell you that I would think a good portion of the people that are in here, it's pretty obvious, they're either they were born with mental health issues, or they most certainly have drugged and alcohol themselves into mental issues. And that's what we're dealing with. My biggest concern is right now, and I know I hear it from other people, is we've had, and I'm going to say this, we've had 3 women killed in the last week in America with mentally ill homeless people that stabbed them and killed 2 of them. And my biggest concern is that we do deal with a lot of mental health issues. And when you upset them or they don't want to leave, believe me, they can get nasty. And so it puts everybody in a situation. And so I called my friend on the mental health and I said, excuse me, what are you doing for the people on, these are mental health issues, and you've got billions of dollars, I think, in the mental health trust. Now, she told me, and I need you to explain it, what's coming, and I'm going to hold her feet to the fire. Can you explain what they're trying to do, the crisis? Because they've never had a situation where we could take them or get them somewhere safely other than calling the police. And that just isn't always the option.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. So I can share a little bit about Crisis Now. Again, give me a timeline. 3 minutes?
Yeah, no, you go ahead. I'll stop you because I think this is interesting.
So Crisis Now is an evidence-based sort of almost a curriculum. It's a blueprint for a community to respond and change the way it responds to mental health and behavioral health crises. When we talk about behavioral health crises or mental health crises, we mean harm to self or others, or we mean extreme intoxication or extreme disability because of cognitive and mental health issues, just so we're clear on that definition. Crisis Now is a company that pitched the mental health trust a couple of years ago on this framework. And the framework has a number of different features that I agree are very helpful. I am not paid by Crisis Now. I don't work for Crisis Now. You can Google all of this and then you'll know exactly as much as I do. So the basics of it are that with the Crisis Now framework, so what we actually have right now is we have emergency services and we have very little else.
And that CP, what is the one where they can now come in the building? The CP, it's.
So Anchorage Safety Patrol
Yes, can
is
now
for
come into
folks
right.
who are, over intoxicated by alcohol alone. No other drugs, no other issues. If you're just cold or you're disoriented or hungry, that's not for you. ASP is just for alcohol intoxication. And if people breathalyze or brack at a certain level, they can be taken against their will to the Anchorage Safety Center and held for a small amount of time. It's a Title 47. Yeah, exactly. And so they have that as an option. We also have the Anchorage Police Department, who have worked really hard to train their people in crisis response. And we have the Anchorage Fire Department's mental health crisis response as well. Those are emergency services, right? They're very expensive. It's the most expensive way to deliver services to people in need. You have to be at a very high level. Crisis Now is hoping that we can kind of fill in that gap. When folks are in that kind of situation, they'd be able to call a 24/7 hotline. And somebody who would answer the phone, usually with Crisis Now, they say that they resolve, I think, 70% of their cases on the phone. If that's not resolvable on the phone, a team would be dispatched. That team would be comprised of a peer survivor who has that lived expertise and a clinician, with the peer taking the lead, so that you have not somebody who's like a white coat doctor coming up and nabbing people, but rather that like, hey buddy, I've been there, come with me, or don't come with me. Better to resolve it on site. Another, I think, high percentage resolve on site. If people are just not able to resolve by phone or by in-person de-escalation, then they can be taken to a place that's 23 hours. It's not like API, it's not a hospital hold. It would be, and instead of beds, they've got recliners, and they have, snacks and water. It's very de-escalating, all of that, to make up a word. And so that gives that time for that person to be evaluated, to get sober, to, if there's, any sort of supports that can be brought together, then that's the third part of it. So Crisis Now is Googleable by anyone and everyone. That's the limit of my knowledge, pretty much. They've been working for a couple of years to get it in place.
Right, and my understanding is from my person that's on that board, it's been a big discussion, and it is coming like really soon, in the next
Hopefully.
5 months. I mean, they're rolling it out this spring, and I think that's great. I told her that wasn't enough. I felt like that they need to have specialized housing for the mentally ill. I think when you put all of them together, they're different situations and different issues. But I deal with this when I have somebody that OD'd in the first floor bathroom right before Christmas with heroin, and the needle's there, the heroin's there. He passed out. The cops came, EMT came, and they basically put him in a cab and let him go anywhere he wanted. I was upset, number one, that they didn't actually see that he needed medical care, and number two, can at least cite them. I can keep them from the grounds when you do that. And so there's just some issues here about, we have to worry about the safety of the patrons and the staff here. And that is my first priority. And so that is how we're addressing these issues.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you for hearing me. I
thank you.
appreciate it. And if anybody ever has questions, please hit me up by all means. I'd love to answer any questions in person or on Teams.
I just have one question. So as I understand, you're like a liaison to all these services.
That's kind of the idea. Yeah, is that.
And another one is, I guess, the nuts and bolts. When you help them fill out forms, are they filling out paper forms, or are you direct them on a computer to fill out stuff?
Depending on the access or the resource, we use whichever is preferred, but you would be shocked and appalled in 2021 that it's all paper. It is paper all day, right? Yeah.
Well, the job applications aren't, because George helps a lot of people with
Yes.
they do the computer lab we have there. They help a lot of people. George is really good. He's been there for years, and he
Are you
will walk
filling
them
out
through it.
state forms, city forms, or Fed forms, or all three?
Fewer federal forms. We do DEPA applications. We do state Division of Public Assistance all day, all night. We do those backwards and forwards. We've also helped people advocate or be like representatives if there's like weird paperwork things, or if they're from another state fixing those things. But we don't work for DEPA. When it comes to the city, most of the city benefits go through the state, but we're talking Cook Inlet Housing Authority, NeighborWorks, Rural Cap, AHFC, all those bad guys, good guys, bad boys, sorry, all those forms, big players in the game. Let's see, what else? We do job applications on occasion, but most folks who are kind of able to handle themselves, those are on a different level. We're kind of working with folks who are.
Do you handle the forms from there, or do they go walk them over themselves?
It depends on what they prefer. If they'd like to do it themselves, I'm not going to stop anybody, but we also track it in HMIS and then we submit it. So we have a paper trail. So it depends.
Good.
A lot of the time there's folks who, they had an email address or they got one, but they lost their phone, or their kid is the one who tells them how to log in on their phone, and they, it's just all those little things. So sometimes we will go ahead and email for them and then just use the in-person explainer. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And the hardest thing about this is just balancing, if we could ever just get all of these agencies to actually work together and do the same thing. But it's just, I know that that's the dream of her, but it is, everybody has their, I'm sorry, their own money in their own little kingdom, and they don't let it go. And that really creates a problem with us helping solve. If we could get all these agencies together and decide this is what we're going to do, it would be much easier. We're kind of caught in the middle trying to figure it out.
Let's start taking lunches. That'd be great. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question, yeah.
Go, Denali.
I want to make sure I understand. Do you work here in the library to help people out, or is there just a question about whether or not to bring you into the library?
So that's a great question. I can tell you that back originally, when the first grant was issued, I was actually an Anchorage Health Department employee working remotely here at BlueSac. That had some logistics, just challenges with everything that goes along with full-time work, so payment and everything, holidays, email lists. The decision was made in the middle of 2019 to house me under your current role as a direct report to you. And I understand that those things are currently under some debate. I honestly have less concern about where the background paperwork is done. The reason for having somebody physically present in the 3 city corridor libraries is the incessant and demonstrated need that overwhelms staff. So, wherever the paperwork goes, I really, for myself, I wouldn't mind, but that's kind of the deal. We were grant funded through that period of time. Does that answer?
And now
your
you're
question?
under the alcohol tax.
That's my understanding.
They have been moved under the alcohol tax and will be funded by the alcohol tax. So that's why there may be some changes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you prefer to be grant funded?
Wait. Oh, they've got questions. We're sorry.
Go ahead, Barb.
Oh, I just want to say, I really think this is a very important role that you're playing with our patrons of the library, some of whom have mental health issues and some don't, but, may be able to get information from you for someone who does have mental health issues. And I think it's really important what you're doing. So I really appreciate it and hope you can continue.
Thanks for hearing about it. And it's for being.
So would you prefer to be is it better to be grant funded? Or the grants just went away, or we didn't apply for more grants?
The grants were a pilot. So a lot of the times grants exist in order to prove a concept.
And then they fund it.
Bingo.
And they fund it through grants from the feds, grants from the state, grants from a combination of above.
Your grants
Alcohol tax.
Alcohol tax.
I can tell you that the benefits of grants are flexible spending, innovation. You can really stretch your legs and figure out what is it. We're the first and only program of our kind in the state of Alaska. Very common in the lower 48, first of its kind here. So we had to figure out what this means for Alaska and for Anchorage and our system. And it is a little different. So grants, yes, let me experiment and be flexible with that. The problem is that I was spending a good 25% of my time in that paper chase, meaning that I have to be pitching, I have to be putting together reports, I have to be, chasing the money and demonstrating, which means you're not spending that time with, the lady today who was, really sweet grandma. So I would rather be doing the direct service. So operational funding, frees up my
It's
time.
nicer for you.
Yeah, I want to be doing direct service.
You mentioned some other cities that have this program. Could you cite those again, please?
Alyssa in Denver, what's her last name? Denver Public Library System, Minneapolis Public Library System, several library systems in New York. There was a starter program in Louisiana, but I think they shut that down. Chicago has a couple of different library systems in and around it. I think a lot of them have programs. One just shut down. There's some in rural Illinois. There's a whole ton. And if you want, I can mend with other programs. Yeah, it's all over. Canada has a lot of them. They have a whole different for Canadians. But it is, there's kind of an urban-rural split with urban libraries have a lot of social workers, and they're they have all these services, we just plug them into, and then all of us rural, northern, semi-rural places are what services? There's 12 people in a trench coat. So anyway, I'll add that to that.
One comment, Rebecca. For 15 years, I ran Jake's Place for Bristol Bay.
Oh, wonderful.
So I am So I want to honor you so much for the work you do. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
And I'm wondering, my current position is cooking in the tribal council, and I wonder if you have an ongoing, I imagine you have an ongoing
Yeah.
relationship with them too.
Salmon Recovery Services has been awesome. So have several of their other treatment related are the Recovery Services branch. We bombard their education and training division with applications all the time. I would love to have more clear communication. I do know that CITC and Adult Services are in active developing partnership right now on a particular grant. And so, yeah, any and all, I mean, CITC is such a big player. They do so much for so many, and I'd love to kind of have a better map and understanding. I can always learn, so.
I need to talk to you because I was trying to get a hold of someone over there and had difficulty trying, for our seniors, trying to, because I know they have housing with some older people and couldn't get a hold of anybody.
Well, you should use me as a liaison.
I just have wrote your name down, Missy. You're going to get called.
Okay. One other comment, and then I will let you get off the hot seat. I noticed the Mental Health Trust Authority was one of your granting agencies. Seems to me you can dip back to that well at some point, right?
We did 3 years funding and they supported us the whole time. Yeah. They do expect that you, after 3 years, will come to a conclusion for ongoing operational funding. We have additional, so like right now we just need basically labor money, right? With a little bit of money for program supplies. There are additional programs like peers and things like that that are well proven to be effective in libraries. Just people who are peers just walking around keeping an eye on things. That's another option that we would go back to them for. And I believe that we even got a grant from either them or Rasmussen for it. So lots and lots, please. I'd love to meet offline too with folks if anybody's got ideas, suggestions, concerns, or anything like that. Wow.
Really appreciate your presentation. Thank you so much. And I'd love it if you'd circulate the PowerPoint as well.
Oh, I will, yes, and I'll add in those bits. So thank you, folks.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Am I excused?
Thanks
Can
so
I
much
have-
for your important work.
Good job.
Alice said thank you too.
Oh, thank you.
And now, on the agenda, our favorite topic, these policies that we keep bringing back. I know Jacob says, my God, will it never end? So, does anybody need a break? Are we ready to continue here? Yes? Alice, did you have your hand up? That means go? Okay. So Jacob, you are going to present these policies for approval. Is that right?
Yes. Taking this. Hold on, my Teams crashed.
Great. Let's see which is first here.
Oh, sorry, my Teams crashed. Let's try this again. Okay. Can you see the policy?
No.
No, Jacob,
can't
we
use-
saw it before, but now we
Well, I'm
don't.
on my Eagle.
Oh, no, I can see it. I can see it.
Really?
We cannot hear.
Really?
There it is. Coming back.
Yeah,
It's coming back.
Oh, there we go.
There it is.
Okay.
All right. We presented these back in, I believe, October. Yeah, October 20th. And there were some questions about some of the wording, and we fixed the wording, and then we didn't bring them back because we felt if we changed the wording, that would be all that was needed. So they're here once again for you to look at if there's anything else that needs to be changed.
I have something that needs, oh, I'm sorry. Did you call
Oh,
on me?
no, go ahead.
I did.
Okay. So on the, well, first of all, do we need to make a motion that we're going to approve these, or we do this after the discussion?
After the discussion, I believe.
Okay. So on the group study room policy, I just had on the last bullet, it looks like there are two subjects in the first sentence. If the room is left in an untidy state, the patron associated with the room, which I think you can take out. So it'll just read, the patron associated with the room will be asked to clean it by staff.
I just told him, he said, where are you? I said, Lord, and I sent the email.
Oh, that's really-
Should be.
Is that okay?
Yep, I just changed it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the second question is more of a procedural, maybe more not a policy, but your procedures, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So I'm reading this and I'm envisioning that everybody's going to leave it in a nice, neat, tidy place. But my question is, do people have to check out with the librarian after they're
Yes.
finished using the room?
Yes, and the librarian has to check the room before they're done with it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good because that makes it easy to ask them to clean it up. Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Anybody else have questions or?
I just have a question because I'm curious. So why can't you sit on the floor or bring more chairs? Are they small rooms?
You know, I did want to address that, Jacob, because I do believe all of the rooms some rooms are a little bit different sizes, so they're not all limited to 10, just some of them.
We're only using one room currently as a study room, and that's the moose room.
Oh, as the study room, that's the little glass room, right? Oh, I thought you meant.
Oh,
Okay.
so it's a space thing.
Okay.
Which is totally fine. I was just curious.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, they had 11. Okay, that
There's
is
probably
sorry.
There's probably some kind of fire code too about how many people can be in a room, I would imagine.
Correct.
No?
Would it be a good idea to designate the name of the room in this? Group study room and whatever room is the smallest?
We wanted to keep it flexible in case somebody was renting the moose room, we could switch them to one of the other rooms.
Okay.
Don't they check through Rick if he's here also, Jacob, a lot of times?
No, not for group study room. This is
Okay.
for group study room. Rentals is a completely different thing.
Okay. Well, I know he deals with some of the group study rooms, so it may not be but he does, because he's sometimes the only person there, Andy.
Oh,
Yeah, Nancy.
One nitpicky small thing, because I'm a proofreader. At the top, the logo is, on our version, is superimposed over the first header.
You mean the statement of
So it just may need to be reformatted a little.
not on the email.
It's interesting.
Nancy.
Yeah. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, not there either.
I'm gonna send you some
He just
stuff.
fixed it.
Nancy, I'm sending you some stuff to edit for me. You're just gonna get some stuff done.
What? I'm sorry?
Second bullet under group study, just put a period.
Okay, got it.
Anything else on either one of these policies that we've had before several times? Hearing none, Jacob, would it be all right to have a motion for both, or do you need single motions?
I was gonna say, did you want to look at the other one before you made a motion on that one, or?
I was, but maybe not everybody was. Let's go to posting then.
Okay. Nancy, did you have a question or?
No, I was going to move to
All
approve
right.
as amended. Thank you.
I've got to go up. These need to be up there for some reason. Lord. In this
Grammatical.
I'm sure this is right. I'm sure this is right since you all have seen it before. But where the asterisk is, so the Muni advertising standards, that is the correct link for those Muni advertising standards, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I always hate it when it goes to the wrong link.
Oh, I know, I do too.
And the reason that, so that, the interesting thing about all this is whenever we go through and do a policy, the last thing that we do is we have to take it to the legal department. And the legal department said that they felt like even with everything that we put in this policy, it did not specifically spell out everything that needed to be spelled out. And we asked if we could use some sort of shorthand, like referring to another policy, and they said yes. So instead of just attaching the entire policy, we thought a link to it online would be the easiest way to deal with that. The only thing is we have to keep an eye on that policy in case they change the web page address in the future. But we typically review our policies on a yearly or bi-yearly basis. So
where does that asterisk attach?
Well, it's all the way down at the bottom, and I did click on the link, and that is the link, and it really does work.
I think she's asking where it is up in the text. Oh, it's on the, under policy, second paragraph,
Understand.
end of first sentence.
Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Deb.
Oh, no, I was just saying, it really works, the link.
Good. Thanks for checking.
Oh, Nancy has her hand raised.
Oh, I didn't see her. Sorry. Go ahead, Nancy.
Jacob, I went back to my notes from the first discussion on this, and we had asked for, there had been a question about an appeals process, adding an appeal.
So in the past, it said that that if the director or their designee removed a posting, that the person could, bring it up with the library advisory board.
Right.
The legal department said that's outside the purview of the library advisory board's charter in the charter. And so they said that we could not put that in there because it would be an addition of your powers.
Perfect. Second question, I went back to my original notes on the group study room policy. I apologize, I just found them. And there is an additional strikeout we had requested on the last bullet point.
What was it?
The patron associated with the room will be asked to clean it, period. Not clean it by staff, because it sounds like you're gonna have the staff clean it. So just clean it, just clean it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm making notes in my notes too, Jacob. Take you.
I think that's what it meant, but that is one of those.
I know, it's just awkward.
Rated phrases. Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it like that until you said that.
Yeah, I know.
The by staff really needs to be after the asked. Or
I know, we'll be asked by
just said
staff to
that
clean
yes.
it.
Yeah.
That's okay. They don't need to specify by who.
Okay. Good eye, good eye. Not hearing anyone else? Who wants to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll move to adopt the two policies as discussed and as amended.
There's a second?
I'll second.
Sorry, who seconded it?
Dennis.
Dennis, thank you, Dennis. Okay. And moved and seconded to adopt these two policies as amended. Is there any discussion? If we had it, okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye
I,
Aye.
Hey,
or aye. Anybody opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
wow, we're moving.
Is she Canadian?
Hey, yeah, I think he's Canadian, eh?
I just read a book about pirates. I'm sorry.
Ah.
Then it should be a
That's more of
voice.
a- Yeah, it's more of an R, hey.
Okay, board comments and adjourn. Does anyone on the board wish to make a comment? Hearing none. We shall adjourn this meeting at 6:56.
You need a call for adjourn?
Oh, okay. I'll call for adjourn then.
Who
Is there a
moves? Who wants to move to adjourn?
I'll move, so moved.
You,
motion on the
you're,
board?
it has to be a member of the board.
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Who seconds?
Pretty nasty.
I will. Done.
Being a member of the board.
Thank you.
No. Okay.
Okay. And what time do you want, please? 5 what?
Yeah, 6:56.
Thank you. I'll get my notes cleaned up and I'll send them to you and to Travis.
Yeah, I hope
Nellie,
Travis is
Mulder's
okay.
on his way over here.